Okay, in this video, I want to show how I made this ball bearing in Plasticity. And there's a link to the Plasticity website in the description if you want to download the free trial version and follow along. And before I start, I just want to mention that I'll be using the Move, Rotate, and Scale tools quite a bit. But instead of coming down here and selecting them on the toolbar every time, I'll be using the keyboard shortcuts of G for Move, R for Rotate, and S for Scale. And I'll be using Shift D to duplicate objects, and Q for Boolean operations. So to begin, I'll drag and drop my reference image into the viewport, and then rotate it up 90 degrees, and move it back here so it's out of the way. And these dimensions are not precise. I'm starting with these basic dimensions in this chart for the 6011 bearing, but all the rest of these dimensions are just approximate. So the first thing I'll do is create a cylinder here at the origin with a radius of 1.772 and a height of 0.709. And then I'll create another cylinder, again at the origin, with a radius of 1.585 and a height of 1. And you can see that this cylinder is red, and it's automatically performing a Boolean operation on the other cylinder, so I'll go ahead and click OK to accept it. And now I want to scale my reference image so it matches the ring. So I'll hit the number 1 key on the number pad to switch to front view, and I'll scale the image down and move it into position so it aligns with the ring. And I think that looks good enough. So now I'll hit M to open up the material panel, and I'll set the opacity to 0.5 so I can see through it if I come around here to the back side. And I'm going to lock it so I won't accidentally select it while I'm working. And while I'm here, I'll rename this ring to Outer Ring, and I'll hide it for now. And now I need to make the inner ring, so I'll create a cylinder with a radius of 1.27 and a height of 0.709. Then I'll create another cylinder with a radius of 1.083 and a height of 1. And like before, the cylinder is automatically performing a Boolean operation, so I'll click OK to accept it, and I'll rename it to Inner Ring and hide it. Next, I need to cut this groove into the rings. So I'll hit number 1 on the number pad to switch to front view. Then I'll create a circle, and while the circle is still active, I can hit the Tab key, and that will allow me to type in the diameter of 0.504 and then hit enter to accept it. And I'll move it over a negative 1.427 on X and 0.355 on Z so it aligns with the reference image. And I want to revolve this circle around the origin, so I'll come down here and click on these 3 dots and select Revolve from the menu. And I'll snap here at the origin to set the center point, and then drag up and click up here to create the object. And then I'll right click to accept it. And then I'll select and delete the circle. And I need 2 of these objects, so I'll select it and hit Shift D to duplicate it. And now you see I have 2 of them over here. So now I'll unhide the rings, and I'll select the outer ring and then hit Q to Boolean. And then I'll click on one of these revolved objects and make sure I'm set to difference and hit OK. And then I'll select the inner ring, hit Q, select this other revolved object and hit OK. And now I have the grooves cut into the rings. So now I'm going to hide them again, and I'll create a sphere with a radius of 0.25. And I'll move it over negative 1.427 and 0.355. And then I'll come down here and click the radial array button, and I'll snap here at the origin to set the center point. And I want the degrees set to 360, and I'll set the number of items to 9. And then hit OK to accept it. And then I'll hide the spheres. So this has all been pretty simple stuff up to this point, but now I need to create this spacer object. And that's going to require a little bit of work, but it's not too difficult. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a cylinder with a radius of 1.552 and a height of 0.03. And then I'll create another cylinder with a radius of 1.302 and a height of 0.1. And it's automatically creating a Boolean, so I'll hit OK to accept it. And then I'll move it up 0.355. And I'll rename it spacer and hide it. And now I'll create a sphere with a radius of 0.282, but I only need the top half, so I'll hit the number 1 key to switch to front view, and then I'll draw a line, and I can snap it right here on the x-axis and just click anywhere here on the line to set the first point. Then I'll come over and again I'll snap to the axis line and click to set the second point, and then I'll right click to accept it. And now with the line selected, I'll come down here and click on these 3 dots and choose Cut from the menu. And it wants me to select the target bodies. So I'll select the sphere, and now you can see this red plane is slicing through the sphere. So I'll click OK to accept it. And now I can select the bottom half of the sphere and delete it. And I'll select the line and delete it also. And now I'll create another sphere with a radius of 0.252, and it's creating a Boolean, so I'll accept it to remove the inner area. And then I'll move it over negative 1.427 and 0.355, but I don't want this to be a full half sphere. I need to remove the sides, so it's only this top portion that remains. So I'll unhide the spacer, select it, and hit Shift-D to duplicate it. Then I'll switch to face selection, and I'll select this top face and extrude it up so it's just a little bit taller than the sphere. And now I want to remove the parts of the sphere that are outside of the ring on each side. But if I select the sphere and hit Q to Boolean and select the ring, it turns red and it's trying to remove the part of the sphere that's inside the ring, which is actually the part that I want to keep. So I need to switch from difference to intersect. And now the ring changes from red to green, and the inner portion is now visible. So I'll hit OK, and now I have what I need. And I need one of these for each sphere, so I'll select the object, hit Radial Array, snap to the origin for the center point, and my degrees and number of items are still the same as before, so I'll hit OK to accept it. And now I need to remove this section of the ring that's inside each of these shells. So I'll create another sphere with a radius of 0.252, and I'll move it over negative 1.427 and 0.355. And then I'll do a radial array around the origin with the same 360 degrees and 9 items, and hit OK. And then I'll select the ring, hit Q to Boolean, select one of these spheres, shift select the rest of them, and make sure I'm set to difference, and hit OK. And now I have all of these individual pieces that need to be joined together. So I'll select one of these ring pieces, hit Q for Boolean, hold down Shift and select all the other pieces. Then make sure I'm set to Union and hit OK. And now it's all one piece. And the last thing I need to do with this part is chamfer and fillet all the edges. So I'll start with these here where the shell connects to the ring. And I'll select all of these edges. Then I'll grab this handle and drag out a fillet radius of 0.04. Then I'll select all of these edges underneath. And give it a fillet radius of about 0.06. Then I'll click on one of these edges, and when I grab the handle, it will affect the entire edge all the way around the part. So I'll drag out a chamfer of about 0.004. And I'll do the same thing with this edge here, and also the edges on this side. And now I can select this object and come down here and click on the three dots and choose mirror from the menu. And I want it to mirror across the XY plane to the other side. So I'll click on this side of the mirror gizmo here. And now you can see it down below. So I'll click OK to accept it. And then I'll just move it up until it looks about right. And then I can unhide the spheres, and that's looking pretty good. So now I just need to create this little fastener that holds the two separator rings together. So I'll create a sphere with a radius of 0.06, and I'll move it over 1.427 and 0.355. Then I'll hit Shift D to duplicate it, and I'll move this one up 0.018, and then I'll grab this one and move it down 0.018. And if I hide the rings, I have this happening, which is fine because you're not going to see it. So I'll hit Q and union these together. Then I'll unhide the rings, and I need to radial array this object around the origin. 360 degrees and 9 items. And now I'll unhide the outer and inner rings. And I just need to add some fillets on these two edges. And 0.045 looks pretty good. And I'll do the same thing on these edges. And then I'll chamfer these edges about 0.015, looks pretty good. And I'll do the same thing on these edges. And that's it. It's ready to take into Blender for materials and rendering. And to do that, you have two options. You can either export your model to OBJ format and then import it into Blender, or you can use the Blender bridge to link your Plasticity file into Blender. I already made videos covering both of these options, and you can find links to both of those videos in the description below. So that's about it for this one. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and post them below. And if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.